Hello and welcome back to my channel. You've seen the title, you've seen the product sitting in front of me on the table. Today we're going to be taking a look at the BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Yes, I realize the 6K camera just came out, so this one's a little bit out of date, except it's still really hard to get your hands on, and in my opinion, this is going to have a little bit more appeal for more people, and to be entirely honest, this has been sitting on my shelf since long before the 6K camera was announced, so let's talk about it. What is the BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K? It is kind of what it says on the tin. It's a cinema camera, it's small, not quite pocketable, it does 4K video. As you can see, it does come with a free copy of DaVinci Resolve Studio. It has BlackMagic RAW built in, so you can do ultra high quality RAW video footage. It can do Apple ProRes, which honestly is probably what I'll end up doing because I don't foresee myself switching to DaVinci Resolve. It can work with all these kinds of storage options, but it also works with USB SSDs, USB-C. There you can see. Next generation handheld 4K camera with a full 4/3 HDR sensor, dual native ISO, and direct recording to USB-C discs. A full diagram here on the side of all the things about the camera. It does have a micro 4/3 mount, which means that all the lenses I had for my Panasonic cameras I can use for this. Very large touchscreen on the back, 5-inch touchscreen, full-size HDMI output, USB-C for power and or storage, headphone and microphone jacks, as well as a full-size XLR port. Talk too much, let's open it up and see it. Like I said, it's been sitting in the box on my shelf entirely too long. So what's in the box? Because most of the videos I've seen about this are look at the amazing quality video and not so much here it is and here's how you set it up. So it comes with a welcome guide with a software and manual SD card. Had no idea that was a thing. A 4 gig class 10 SD card, which presumably has the DaVinci Resolve software on it. DaVinci Resolve Studio. Oh, there's DaVinci Resolve Studio. So there's a second one with an activation card in it. A battery pack. If you are not familiar with it, this is an LPE6 battery. It's a Canon battery traditionally used in Canon DSLRs. I've probably got a few of these because I had a Canon DSLR in the past. I'm not sure if I've sold all of those off or not. But it also has a wall attachment, so I can plug this into my power strip right over there and go straight into the camera with it. Because one of the biggest complaints about this camera is with this battery, you get like 45 minutes of battery life. That's actually why when I bought this from Adorama, they shipped it with this thing. This is the Core Powerbase Edge Small Form Cine V-mount battery pack with a shortened LPE6 battery dummy to be able to work with the BlackMagic Pocket 4K camera. So this is a big battery that should give you hours and hours. I'd say at least 2 to 3 hours. Will I need it? I don't know. It was just included, so I couldn't say no. You got a bundle of connectors, power adapters for all around the world. I'll obviously be using this one, but nice of them to think ahead, just in case people do happen to leave the country. Or again, if you purchase it in a different country, just clip it right in there. And if you can see it there, the output is 12 volts, 2.5 amps, but it does have this twist-in connector, so I'm not sure you'd be able to find that somewhere else if you wanted to get a replacement. And there's the camera. That is actually quite a bit bigger than I expected it to be. Again, I'm used to using these very small mirrorless cameras, the Panasonic G7, the Sony a6300. So this feels much, much bigger in my hands. But still, given what you're gonna get out of it, massive 5-inch touchscreen, built-in tripod mount and fans and everything. You do have a built-in microphone, and I've heard that it's okay, but it's obviously not going to be as good as using external. Everything is very clearly, nicely labeled. Unfortunately, I just clipped my fingernail, so I can't open any of these at the moment. And here on the bottom is where the battery would go. Let's see if I can, there we go. That's where the battery will go, or the dummy battery. Although I'm immediately noticing there's not a place for the wire to come out, so it may either have to stay open or you may have to drill a hole in the battery door to allow the dummy to work. This is very robust feeling. I heard a lot of people complaining because it felt cheap and plasticky. This camera is like $1,200, $1,300, something like that. So to me, it actually feels very solid and very heavy as compared to something like my a6300. The buttons have a lot of good feedback to them. They're not mushy. They don't feel mushy, at least. They're not super clicky or anything. This button leaves a little to be desired, but it looks like it's the take a photo button, and that's not what you buy a camera like this for. You've got high frame rate buttons. All these buttons are really geared toward filming and cinematography. Focus, high frame rate, zoom in, playback. There we go. I managed to get these side flaps open. So there's a 3.5mm mic jack and headphone jack, full-size HDMI, audio input. Although the said XLR, this is definitely not a full-size XLR. Perfectly fine. I've got a mini XLR to full-size XLR cable somewhere. There's that screw-in power adapter and the USB-C, which we can use with this little SSD that I got on Amazon a while back. This is a Samsung portable SSD T5, specifically the 1 terabyte model. I know they also make a I think a 256 and a 512. But on the other side here, you can also flip this open. It has a full-size SD card slot, as well as a CFast card slot, if you have CFast cards. I do not. These doors feel very large and heavy and robust. Let's go ahead and peel this off the back so we can see that large screen. And I'm going to put this Canon battery pack in here, probably for the last time. I could see that being useful for traveling, but I don't foresee myself using this as a travel camera. If we turn it on, I can definitely hear it. The fan is making some noise there, but it says FPS, it's got shutter rotation. That's one thing that I'm not familiar with, is the shutter degree, the shutter angle. Right now it says 180 degrees, ISO 400, white balance 5600, tint 10, no cards. You can see the microphone there. It is hearing me, as you would expect, and we're seeing nothing because I don't have a lens on here. You do have programmable function buttons up here, an ISO button. So if I tap this, I can set the ISO there. It's just a slider I can drag, or I can hit buttons over here to switch between them. That's cool. The S is for shutter, so if I tap that, I can adjust the shutter, 90, 180, 360, auto exposure, shutter plus iris, or shutter, and then if I hit the white balance button, I can do all sorts of white balances, custom, auto, or directly set. You're probably gonna want it directly set if you're using it in a cinema scenario. And then it looks like if I hit this 3-line button, it goes into the full menu. Right now it's set to BlackMagic RAW, constant bitrate, 4K DCI, so it's not the Ultra HD, it's larger than that, 4096 by 2160. You can take it down to HD if you want to, but why? It's Blackmagic 8:1 right now. You can go up to 12:1, which I thought took another firmware update. I've had this camera sitting on my shelf for a while, so there's firmware updates that have come out since this camera came to me. But let's keep looking. We can change it to ProRes, and then we've got a few options here. You can go to monitor, so you can say LCD, HDMI, or both. Clean feed, display LUTs. There are so many features here I'm never going to touch. Channel 1 and channel 2 source, camera left, camera right. You could change it to camera right, camera mono, XLR mic, 3.5. There we go, all kinds of options there. I'll leave it camera left and right for now. Setup, set your date and time. I haven't done that yet. Shutter measurement, shutter angle, or shutter speed. I'm actually going to change it to shutter speed. I did not know that was an option. I've seen a lot of videos on this and I haven't actually seen that yet. And unfortunately, that is where my main camera overheated. It's been a few days and I haven't even scratched the surface in terms of what this thing will do. As you saw, I was looking through the menus. There's a lot more in there. But for the moment, let's change over to just a few sample clips that I've done with the camera. All right, so here's a quick test using the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, 4K Ultra HD, not the DCI ultra wide stretched one, using the Panasonic Lumix 12-32 f3.5 to 5.6 lens. I think I'm at about f3.6, that's just what it picked. No autofocusing or anything. I basically just had to set this, hit the focus button on the back of the camera and hope that I'm in focus. I think I'm at ISO 200 and I'm using the internal audio from the camera. So this is using the two microphones on the front of the camera set to 100%. So this is as loud as they're gonna go. And I'm in this room that's not treated. It's a reasonably sized room, but it is a little bit echoey. So there's a quick sample. And here's another quick sample using the same lens, pretty much the same settings. I just told it to autofocus and auto adjust again, but I have a different microphone on top of the camera. All of the sample videos and everything I've seen from people, they don't tend to focus on the microphone and the audio, which is a very important part of any video. Not that I think you should be using this for vlogging or anything, but I just wanted to see what it sounded like. So I'm using, it's not the Rode Video Micro, but it's very similar to it. It's the one from Comica. I made a video about it a while back. I'll see if I can link it down below, or at least link to the microphone itself. But I have them both set to 3.5mm left and right, set to 100% on the back of the camera. Here's another quick test using my Panasonic 20mm f1.7 lens. Should be a lot tighter than this little lens was. This 20mm does not have any OIS built in, but it's f1.7, so it should be a much shallower depth of field. And here's a little bit of outdoor footage, just to give you kind of a sense of the dynamic range, if I'm doing this correctly. Just sitting on a tripod, using the 12-32 lens, sort of panning back and forth. I have auto exposure turned on, but it has locked the shutter to 96 degrees and f12 on the iris. And we'll probably have a little bit of wind noise on this, but I went back to 180 degree shutter. That should be 1/60th of a second. Iris is f8, ISO 125. I do have the white balance set to 5600, so I should probably set that to auto, but so far, back of the camera, everything looks nice. And the auto white balance set to 4950K with -50 tint, so that should have changed the color a little bit. And that's about where we'll stop for today. So far, for the most part, I've been using this camera with this super cheap kit lens, the 12 to 32 kit lens that came with one of my Panasonic cameras, as well as my Panasonic 20mm f1.7, and this Comica CVM VM10 very small microphone, doesn't take any power or anything. Just plug it directly into the side of the camera. And all the clips that you've seen so far, they were filmed in ProRes. I didn't use BlackMagic RAW because I'm not ready to dive into DaVinci Resolve yet. They were all filmed with the film look, a much more flat look. And as I put at the bottom of the screen, I added the BlackMagic LUTs after the fact. I was able to pull them all off of the camera directly. I just hit export on the camera, hooked it up using USB-C, and imported them into Final Cut. They all work just fine. I still have a massive amount of learning left to do about this camera, but honestly, I foresee this being an amazing B-roll camera, being able to get much better shots of products as I'm talking about them. So that's what I'm going to be using it for. I'm also going to take some time and do some rigging up to this because as it stands, it's an impressive camera, but I've already been using it with an SSD, a USB-C SSD. It's just been hanging off the side, which is not safe. And I didn't have a great way to mount this microphone on top, so I've been using this little tripod to tripod mount, male to male mount, putting it on top, and that doesn't really work out very well either. So if you're interested in seeing it, I might make a follow-up video to this showing some of the accessories that I've picked up for this camera, but at the price point, if you can get your hands on it, $1,300, $1,200, something like that, if you don't need that full 6K that you're gonna get out of the I think it's $2,500 Blackmagic 6K camera, this thing will do a massive amount of work for you. And I've even seen there's a modification a company's working on that will allow you to tilt up the screen, actually take it off and tilt it up. I don't think I'm going to be doing that because it's going to be like $800 or something like that. I'm just going to put a monitor on top of it. But let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below. Definitely not in my normal wheelhouse, but a really powerful camera at a very impressive price point. So I'll put links to where you can find this down in the video description if you're interested in checking it out. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up down below. And if you're not already subscribed and you want to be, hit the subscribe button as well and ring the notification bell and all of the things. But that's going to wrap things up for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.